Problem with Pedro Pear by Alfie Jumble. Pedro Pear lived on a 5-a-day hill with Sally Strawberry, Monty Mushroom, Gertrude Garlic, Bertie Banana and Mandy Melon. It was a very nice place to live. Everyone tried to be kind and considerate. They thought carefully before making a noise. They kept their gardens tidy. They never dropped litter. But there was one problem on 5-a-day hill, and Pedro Pear was that problem. Pedro Pear liked boxing. He also liked playing jokes on people, and that was the problem. Take yesterday, for example. The sheep and pigs were happily grazing away in the meadow when along came Pedro Pear. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Baa!" said the sheep. "Grunt!" said the pigs. Pedro just laughed. Further along the lane, he saw Sally Strawberry. Sally was happily dancing along to her music. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Yikes!" said Sally, jumping into the air. Guess where Sally landed? Yes, on top of a sheep. The sheep was not pleased. Sally was not pleased. Pedro just laughed. A little further along the lane was Bertie Banana. Bertie was perched on the diving board, ready to dive into his swimming pool. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Yikes!" said Bertie, and dived into the flower bed. Bertie was not pleased. The flowers weren't pleased either. Pedro just laughed. A little further along the road, Pedro saw Mandy Melon. Mandy was enjoying a game of tennis. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Yikes!" said Mandy, throwing her tennis balls up into the air. Mandy was not pleased. Pedro just laughed. A little further along the road, Pedro saw Monty Mushroom. Monty had been fishing. In his hand was a very large bucket of fish. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Yikes!" said Monty. Of course he tipped up his bucket and all the fish slithered out. Monty was not pleased. The fish were not pleased. Pedro just laughed. Further along the road, Pedro spotted Gertrude Garlic on her tightrope. Gertrude belonged to the circus. "Boo!" shouted Pedro. "Yikes!" said Gertrude. Of course Gertrude fell off the rope. Gertrude was not pleased. Pedro just laughed. That evening there was a meeting on 5-a-day hill. Everyone was there except Pedro Pear. He hadn't been invited. "We must do something about Pedro," they said. "It can't go on like this," they said. "We have to stop him playing jokes," they said. The next day they waited until Pedro was working out with his punch bag. Then they all crept up behind him and shouted, "Boo!" Of course, Pedro jumped out of his skin. "Yikes!" he shouted. Pedro was not pleased. But everyone else just laughed. Did Pedro ever play jokes on his friends again? No, of course not. Now everyone on 5-a-Day Hill is happy